Last year, I discussed the discovery of a huge megalithic complex in Huelva, Spain called La Torre Genera that consists of hundreds of structures, including standing stones, dolmens, mounds, cists, and enclosures, none of which had been noticed before. Dating back to between 7,000 and 8,000 years ago, many of the standing stones were arranged in alignments, and some of the other structures appeared to be funerary monuments. This discovery was of huge importance, but it's not the only one to have been made in Spain in recent years. Last month, a paper was published in the journal Antiquity about yet another megalithic site that came to light on the Iberian Peninsula during an excavation in 2020. This time, the megalithic tomb was found at the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Antequera. This Neolithic complex is already seen as a highly important megalithic site, consisting of 3 immense structures. This new find gives further insight into the beliefs and lifestyle of the ancient inhabitants of Antequera. Before we get into the new discovery, for context, let's discuss what else exists in this area. In this part of southern Spain, one of the most famous megalithic complexes is the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Antequera in Andalusia. It's made up of 3 megalithic structures, the dolmen of Menga, the dolmen of Viera, and the tholos of El Romero, as well as 2 natural geological features, El Torcal and La Peña de la Enamorados. The dolmen of Menga consists of a chamber measuring 27.5 meters long and 6 meters wide, and is made up of some absolutely enormous megaliths, including one weighing 180 tons. Its megalithic structure was covered in soil, forming a tumulus. When archaeologists excavated it in the 19th century, they found the skeletal remains of several hundred people. It's oriented to the northeast. Just 70 meters from the dolmen of Menga sits the dolmen of Viera, which is made up of a 21-meter long corridor and a rectangular chamber. It's also covered with soil, forming a large tumulus, and is oriented just south of east. Several kilometers to the northeast of these 2 structures sits the tholos of El Romero, a structure that was built 2,000 years later than the dolmens. It's a chambered tomb covered by a mound and is made up of a combination of dry stone walls and megalithic slabs. The 2 natural mountain features that form part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site are thought to have been important to the Neolithic inhabitants of the area and may have influenced the positioning and orientation of their tombs. El Torcal is a karstic formation that houses the cave known as El Toro, a site that was inhabited from the early Neolithic 7,400 years ago. La Peña de los Enamorados is a huge limestone massif that sits 800 meters above sea level and makes an anthropomorphic silhouette against the landscape. It appears that the builders of the dolmen of Menga aligned the megalithic structure with the chin of the cliff where the Matacabras rock art shelter sits. The art in this rock shelter predates the megalithic structure. Archaeologists first discovered the site Piedras Blancas in 2020. This megalithic tomb sits on a hill that's part of La Peña de los Enamorados. Part of it is natural, part of it sits underground, and part of it is megalithic. The cavity measures 4.5 by 1.45 meters and is lined on 2 sides by megalithic slabs and on the other sides by natural rocks. It's not clear if it was roofed originally. The slabs at the entrance were engraved with motifs which are being studied. One slab at the rear of the cavity has a natural ripple decoration on it, which would have formed when this sedimentary rock was on an ancient seabed. The authors think it may therefore have been chosen by the builders of the tomb on purpose for its design. 2 triangular dressed slabs were found to have been fixed to the chamber's floor using mud mortar and were integrated at the very beginning of the monument's construction. The authors of the paper refer to these as the arrow-like device and think that it has archaeoastronomical significance. Using several methods to determine its orientation, the researchers found that the arrow-like device points towards the summer solstice sunrise around the year 3400 BCE. It appears that several slabs were placed in their locations within the tomb specifically to funnel light from the rising sun on the summer solstice towards the back of the chamber. The slab with the natural ripple decoration on it would have lit up at that time. Inside the tomb, archaeologists found human skeletal remains, animal bones, naphtolithics, and ceramics. Almost 1,000 kilograms of stones were found, which had been used to demarcate certain spaces and create features within the chamber. The human bones were fragmented and not well preserved, making analysis difficult. 7 radiocarbon dates were obtained, and these, together with stratigraphic evidence, show that the tomb was in use from around 3185 to 1630 BCE, with 3 major phases. During its first phase, the tomb was separated into 4 areas. One was used for offerings and yielded 2 ceramic vessels. One contained a platform that was probably used to place the deceased. Another area contained the arrow-like device, which the authors of the paper refer to as a solar compass. The 4th and final area was packed with human bones that appeared to have been pushed there from the platform once the body had decayed. Researchers think that 4 adults and 1 child had been placed there originally. During the second phase, a layer of sediment was added to cover the floor, and 2 stone niches were created for 2 individual primary inhumations. An analysis of the skeletal remains revealed that one of these was a male and the other possibly female. The bodies were buried at different times and without grave goods. The absence of grave goods is remarkable for what appear to have been high-status individuals. During the third phase, some stones were put inside the entrance to block it off, but it's also possible these once belonged to a roof that has since collapsed. The skeletal remains of 6 adults and 2 children were found associated with this phase. There's also evidence for trepanation in one skull. As well as lithic and ceramic materials, the archaeologists found a triangle limestone pebble at the threshold to the tomb that had been purposefully flattened at its base so that it could be put in a standing position. The authors suggest that its bimorphic appearance probably meant the ancients used it as an apotropaic device, that is, to ward off evil. Similar betels and idols have been found at the thresholds to megalithic tombs across the Iberian Peninsula. Research at the site is continuing. The Piedras Blancas tomb contributes further evidence to the hypothesis that the ancient inhabitants of Antequera saw geological formations as both landmarks and geosculptures, and that natural motifs also held importance in their worldview. Prior to building megalithic monuments, they settled in rock shelters and would have had a respect and veneration for their natural environment. Just as with many megalithic sites, astronomical alignments have been found at all the Antequera monuments and are related to the natural formations in the area. The fact that Piedras Blancas and the dolmens of Menga and Vieira were all in use for several thousand years shows they played significant roles within the local Neolithic community. Interestingly, although Piedras Blancas remained in use into the Copper and Bronze Ages, no metals were found at the site. There were also no imported items such as ivory or amber, and there was no cinnabar pigment, all materials that are often found at Copper Age megalithic tombs. This is very much an ancient Neolithic site. Just a few comments. It's remarkable that megalithic monuments, although often quite conspicuous in the landscape, can also be pretty well hidden, meaning new ones get discovered every year. That's why I don't really support the patterns and alignments that a lot of alternative researchers try to make for megalithic structures. It's possible that many haven't survived and that many are still to be discovered, not to mention the fact that they are often dated hundreds of years apart. So I prefer not to try to find patterns as such, but I do think that at a lot of sites, structures were built at the same time as part of interconnected complexes, and that to develop a full understanding of the ancients' motivations, we need to take such monuments into consideration as a whole. I read a bit on the alignments at the Antequera monuments, and considering that they all have different orientations, I don't think we have a full picture of the archaeoastronomical significance of each tomb. I'm not convinced they are related to the summer solstice, but I'll get into that in another video. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching and for supporting me through channel membership, Patreon, super chats, and everything else. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.